Welcome to another edition of Flint on Demand. Today, I'm happy to bring you a conversation I recently had with Doni Lerner, the VP of Strategy at PeerSpot. PeerSpot is a leading enterprise technology review site that offers really helpful content for technology buyers in terms of evaluations of technology, reviews, comparisons, et cetera. Donnie's going to talk to us about PeerSpot and some of the unique things that they do, and also how marketers are leveraging their content and their intent data to fuel their demand generation campaigns. As always, I invite you to please subscribe to this channel to see more videos like this as they come out. Hit that like button. We appreciate the engagement. And without further ado, here's my conversation with Doni Lerner at PeerSpot. Doni Lerner, welcome to Flint on Demand.
Hey, Kevin. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No,
It's always fun to catch up with you.
yeah, it's been a long time coming. I feel like we've periodically had long heart-to-heart chats about demand generation over the past decade or so. For the audience watching, can you just tell me a little bit about your role at PeerSpot, and then a little bit of a profile on what PeerSpot does?
Sure. I was going to say more like angry rants about the state of demand gen in general, but sure, heart to hearts is a good way of putting it too. I'm Doni Lerner. I'm the VP of Strategy here at PeerSpot. I started here, 9 years ago now. So I was the sixth employee. I was a wedding photographer in my past life, and I sort of fell, butt first into a wonderful opportunity, and I grew with the company. So now I own innovation of our services for marketers. I own partnerships, and I work with the teams that deliver a lot of the services that we have. So teams that collect reviews, the teams that create content, and the teams that run events for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, the world of peer reviews is so interesting, and I think we increasingly see that type of content is more and more important for buying decisions, not only for obviously business decisions, but also in our personal lives. We become very reliant on that sort of peer-to-peer and social content. In my background, coming from a paid media more focus on the agency side, I've always been trying to figure out where reviews content fits, particularly in demand generation. Can you talk a little bit about how you see reviews content, such as what appears on PeerSpot, to fit into a demand generation strategy for enterprise marketer?
Sure. There's so many different ways, honestly, and it's hard to sort of unpack that all at once. But I'll give you an example. We had one of our customers that they took this is an enterprise tech customer vendor, one of top companies in the world. They had a landing page. They were using customer quotes as part of that landing page. They put our widget on that landing page instead, and they saw something like a 30% uptick in conversion rate just from switching out their own internal customer quotes that they collected for that sort of objective third-party stamp. So there's anywhere where you're using content, whether it's gated, ungated, you're trying to capture people's attention. We see this from every bit of research that's out there. The number one content enterprise tech buyers are looking for user reviews, user experiences, user opinions, and more particularly, they want it from objective third parties. And so there's a million different ways you can integrate that into your demand engine. And it's just about finding where your gaps are.
And it's interesting, and that statement you just made has always seemed very logical to me, right? And all the research out there that I can find has shown that peer-to-peer review content, lower funnel content like that is absolutely critical in terms of framing a buying decision, validating a buying decision, taking that decision to the buying committee and making that recommendation. And yet it seems like there's some hesitancy, right? It's not universal that companies are using these quotes and these scores and that are putting them out there. What do you think are some of the reasons why there's some hesitancy to really get behind embracing and amplifying authentic reviews content?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So one of the things that I come up against often is, especially for the larger vendors out there, the closer you get into enterprise, the more difficult this becomes, is that sort of need to control the narrative, right? Especially when you're dealing with a global brand, and there are these controls in place, and there's a brand team, and there's you need to have a certain amount of visibility into what people are going to say about you. And so that sort of need to have control over the narrative means that they want to have a lot more control about what people say about them. And one of the I guess the downsides of that is that the more you control the narrative, the less impactful your customer content is. So I've seen a
Mhm.
lot of great research out there that show that 4-star reviews are actually more impactful to influence decision makers than 5-star reviews because it's a lot more believable, right? It's not just about can you get the customer to say all the same things that you would say yourself, but can they give an authentic story that
Mhm.
shows that this is an objective opinion that people can relate to,
Mhm.
and that's what's going to shine through and ultimately influence people's decision making.
Right. And another thing that we've certainly seen and hearing from the end customer in any research or even just anecdotal conversations is they want to see vulnerability. They want to know when it broke and why and what you did to address that because everybody's use case is going to have a point where it breaks. There's almost universally true, right?
Right.
Do you think that are you seeing a shift to where companies are getting more comfortable showing some of the warts and the lessons learned? Because it does seem like there's a real desire to see that stuff, but it also is uncomfortable to share that your solution wasn't perfect every time from the origin to version 30. Do you think
Yeah.
are companies starting to get it, or do you still see where there's some areas where it's just like, no, 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 we need to make sure we only show that's perfect?
I think a lot more than it used to be. I see, most of the forward-thinking companies out there are, open to sort of showing their warts. It's something we actually built into the platform. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a requirement as part of our terms of writing a review is we won't publish a review on our platform that doesn't have an element of positive and an element of negative.
Mm-hmm.
When I say negative, I mean room for improvement,
Yeah.
right? There's no such thing as a product that works perfectly 100% of the time and is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't exist in enterprise tech.
Yeah.
So if you can't tell us how this company can make the product better, we don't feel that you're objective enough to write a review on our platform.
Mm-hmm.
All of the vendors that work with us and all the vendors that don't work with us are subject to that. So we are definitely seeing a move in that direction, and there's a lot less hesitancy about that than there used to be.
For your users or prospective users that might find you like through searches and things like that, I'm sure that's a big part of establishing trust and authenticity with the audience. Is there anything else that you do at PeerSpot to really try to elevate the content and the level of trust and like that, hey, this is not like pay for play, it's not fluff, it's actual, reliable, because there's so many sites out there, there's forums, message boards, it can be hard to parse out where can I
Yeah.
go to really get an authentic review versus what might be more of a paid promotion strategy.
Yeah. I definitely hear that. I'll share a little anecdote. I every once in a while I'll actually call some of the tech buyers who use our site, and they'll download one of our buyers guides, and so
Hmm.
they give us their phone number and they opt in and everything. And so I spoke to director of IT at a Fortune 500 bank, somebody who reports into the CTO of that bank. So obviously, every company's ideal customer.
Hmm.
And I asked him, how did you find the report? What do you, what is valuable to you in the review content? And a few things that he said stuck with me. He said, I don't care about the star rating. I don't care about the number of reviews. I want to understand the use case of the person. I want to understand it deeply. I want to understand the integrations and how well it
Hmm.
plays with other products and what else was in their tech stack. I want to understand the scalability for my organization and a few other of those details that we capture with our sort of long form strategy and working with buyers to really understand what it is they need in content has really helped shape the way we approach reviews. So more about the sort of depth of content. And I don't know if you know this, but we capture the vast majority of our reviews interviewing people, whether it's
Hmm.
over the phone or face to face. And so what you can get in a 15, 20-minute interview, right, that's then transcribed as a review is a lot deeper than what you get when somebody just submits something, manually in their free time on a website. So the feel of the review is a lot more authentic because it's just whatever flows out of that person's head when they're asked a whole bunch of different questions. So um, it feels and it tastes authentic.
Mhm.
Buyers, users can smell vendor created content a mile away.
Yeah, and I think that's really what again for years I've been looking for different ways to utilize this kind of content because it is so different than some top of funnel corporate made brochures and things like that, and to that end, we talk about how the customer, our customer's customer or the end users, they talk about how much they need this content, how they're going to their own networks. We hear about, dark social now being such a huge part
Yeah.
of sales, right? Knowing that they're crying out for this content, finding ways to utilize it is so important. And I wanted to ask you about in terms of how PeerSpot can help companies with their actual lead generation, and by that I mean actual leads,
Mm.
because certainly the signals and the intent, and we'll talk about intent more in a second, but the buying signals and intention behind looking at this type of content certainly is a whole different level than just taking a look at the top 5 reasons white paper that somebody puts out. So, what are
Right.
some ways that you aid your clients with their lead generation?
Sure. So I think that the sort of best way for me to sort of introduce that is to talk about what is the job to be done, right? When we look at the way the internet works, it's sort of devolved into this like cat and mouse game of like I'm gonna pull you from one thing to the next to the next to the next, and we don't think about what somebody's intention was when they opened up their browser and they sat down there. Was it just to waste time while they're just at work bored, or did they come here with a specific intention in mind? So not intent, but what is their intention?
Hmm.
If you look at most of the ways of generating leads that are out there, it revolves around that sort of distraction mechanism. I came to read an interesting article on a tech media site, right? I came to look at this piece of thought leadership or whatever it is. I'm interested in the future of the industry. We create this sort of very broadly appealing content, but then the job to be done is I want to learn more, not I want to buy a product. So with us, 83% of our traffic is low funnel inbound organic search. The best thing I can say about our site is it's really boring. Nobody wants to read a 3,000 word review of CrowdStrike for fun. It's not interesting, it's
Hmm.
not exciting, and it's not going to help you do your job better. But if you're looking to buy CrowdStrike, then that's exactly what you want. And you want to compare them against their top competitors in the space. And you want to understand, did anybody look at both of these products and who picked one over the other and why? And you want to dig into that. And so when somebody comes to our site to research, the most likely reason is because they're looking to buy one of these products, as opposed to
Hmm.
it sort of being an off chance. And so we have buyer's guides that we put on all the pages on our site, dynamically generated, that help people make better buying decisions, and we generate leads for people that way. And we have a number of other programs around advertising, around intent data as well, to help people capture this audience of just active buyers who are researching them and their competitors on our site.
I want to talk a little bit about intent data, and we've had this conversation over many years as you've built your business. You have more and more
Yeah.
users, more and more data. In the world we're in right now, where the cookie is crumbling, we know that first party intent data publishers, companies that can acquire that kind of data are going to be more and more prominent. And I think some of the co-ops are being challenged a bit. Can you talk about, given how there's so many different types of proprietary intent data and different sources that marketers can be plugging into their programs, how do you think these marketers should approach looking at different types of intent data? And then where do you think, how can they leverage PeerSpot as a really a key source of intent data?
Sure. I love that phrase, the cookie is crumbling. I hadn't heard that before, but it's phenomenal. I'm
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 sure I
gonna
didn't
I'm
make
gonna
it up. It seems cliche, but
I'm gonna steal that from you. Um, yeah, so I think over the last few years with the rise to prominence of ABM platforms, and there's just been a general push to get more targeted in marketing in general. We've seen everybody and their sister-in-law launch a new intent data product,
Hmm.
and everybody who's anybody who plays in this broader world of demand gen has their own proprietary intent data product, but almost all of it is one of three sources, right? You're probably using Bombora, and you're probably using some exhaust from the back end of the ad exchange, and then you'll have some publishers and platforms like us who will get our own first party data from the platform. So the important thing to remember is not all forms of intent data are actually measuring the same thing, right?
Hmm.
We spoke about this like a minute ago. Most of the traffic on the internet, most of the things people are doing are not researching a purchase. When somebody goes to read an interesting article, it's because it's relevant to their job and that's going to help them be a better employee, or it's just genuinely interesting to them. That doesn't necessarily mean they're looking to buy. And the same thing, with you look at what ads people click on. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's intent to purchase. What you're measuring with most of these signals is interest in a topic, which is a top of funnel signal. So you can talk about which one's better, which one's worse, but it's about what are you measuring? We're measuring top of funnel interest. With our data, I'm not guessing that, when I see Bank of America in New Jersey is looking to buy a new flash
Hmm.
array, it's not because there's guesswork. It's not because I see what articles they're reading. It's not because I see what ads they're clicking on. It's because I see multiple people over the last few months from Bank of America in New Jersey reading user reviews about different flash arrays and comparing those products. So it's a much more a higher confidence signal,
Hmm.
and it's a lower funnel signal. And so my advice to everybody when you think about intent data is to understand what is the signals that you're using measuring, and make sure to use it in a campaign with that desired result.
Hmm.
So if you want to run a low funnel campaign, I haven't seen a better source of intent data for low funnel than just
Hmm.
what are people actively researching right now on PeerSpot.
Yeah. So you're really talking about a high quality, low volume signal, which means it's not just something you throw into an algorithm in a machine. You need to be actually looking at it. A human probably needs to be observing that and figuring out what action to take because of that. So more of a, if you think about ABM, for example, in a one to
Yeah.
few, one to one world, that's a type of data point that could be transformative for a sales and marketing partnership, as opposed to just scooping up tons of inferred signals and trying to use that to better target your display advertising, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at, one for like a one-to-one, one-to-few motion. You look at the overlap between
Hmm.
your ICP and who's actively in market right now, and that's your smaller ABM motions. And then your broader ABM motions are, you take, let's say, you add in multiple intent sources and you try and triangulate when you're getting weaker signals from multiple places, right? I know a lot of companies use 6sense or one of the ABM platforms.
Hmm.
So those are really great tools at combining multiple sources together to try and triangulate which are sort of the companies or the signals that we want to make big bets on and do a one-to-one or one-to-few motion there.
Hmm. You just mentioned 6sense, and I know that there was a recent deal announced with them. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is? And then I think more generally, how you're approaching as a company partnerships as a way to make this data and this great, content available through multiple different channels for the marketer.
Yes, absolutely. So 6sense is the first ABM platform that we integrated with. We had a really strong customer overlap with them, so that's really great. And our customers are very often power users. So when we had asked them, which ABM platforms should we go and integrate with, 6sense came up a lot, and it was by people who considered themselves power users. So that's
Hmm.
that's always great to have that sort of vote of confidence from our customers. Um, The integration is really simple. We're taking our intent data, we're piping it into Sixth Sense so that you can use it in however you use Sixth Sense in those motions. And so we're adding more nuance to that over time, and we're excited to be part of some of the newer things that they're building there. But the general idea is whatever you're doing with Sixth Sense will benefit from having that low funnel, high confidence signal
Mhm.
added to your mix.
I mean, it's exciting to see. I mean, I certainly encourage anybody that watches this or that I talk to, reach out, ask questions, and figure out how they can be testing, the content and the programs that you have, see how it fits into their strategy. We'll be sure to put some contact details for you and the team in the show notes, but I really just think it's imperative for marketers to be thinking about how to use these signals in this content. It's not your massive scale part of your activity, right? But this is the very focused, like spear fishing, whatever cliche you want to use.
Right.
And I'm excited to see how with the growth in technology and the partnerships that you have, and I think it's easier now for marketers to actually leverage this content. And I think the audience that we're all trying to reach is leaning more and more towards this direction. So it's been really great to see the growth of your company, and I think I certainly believe good things are ahead.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Uh,
I'll end. I saw one interesting piece of research
mhm.
like the last couple of weeks from Foundry, if anybody wants to Google it. They did they looked at a couple of different aspects. One is, shock, user reviews, user experiences, the number one kind of content enterprise tech buyers are looking for. Then the second interesting thing I saw is that 96% of tech buyers want content to be personalized for them or tailored for them. And that's another really great use case for the reviews there is, show people what other people like them from their
Mhm.
industry, from their company size, in their job role are saying about your product, right? Use that in sales, use that in marketing everywhere. People respond much better when you say, hey, somebody like you is using the product really well. You might be interested in what they have to say. So that's I'll
Mhm.
sort of end with that note is that it's possible to be that much more targeted, that much more personalized when you have
Mhm.
all of these customer experiences.
Yeah, and it's not only more effective, but I've also seen plenty of data points and anecdotal feedback that, again, the end buyer appreciates the vendor, the company that makes it easy to find the content that helps them.
Yes,
We should listen to our
absolutely.
customers, and really, I think our approach should be tailored to what they want. The user is in more and more control of their journey, and the more we listen to them and feed them what's going to help them make a decision. This is just so universal across every
Yeah.
category. All of us in this ecosystem are trying to serve our customer in that way, and I think you're really at an interesting sweet spot here. So I'm sure more good things are to come, and really appreciate your time today and sharing this perspective. And I just encourage people to reach out. It doesn't hurt to have a conversation and see how PeerSpot can help them out.
Thanks. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm always happy to talk.
All
Ping
right.
me on LinkedIn.
Thanks, Donnie, and we'll
Kevin,
catch up again
always
soon.
fun.
All right. Bye
Yeah.
bye.